I lived alone after my mother died. Not the quiet, peaceful kind of alone people talk about, just empty. It was the fall of 2019, late October, in a small town in northern Oregon. The neighborhood was built in the 1980s. Old wooden houses, narrow hallways, thin walls, the kind of place where everything creaks when the temperature drops. I worked the night shift at a local print center and got home just before midnight every night. I ate something simple, showered, slept, and repeated the same routine over and over. My life was so predictable that I never questioned it, which is why I didn't question the first thing that went wrong. The water heater was warm. I always turned it off after showering. My mother drilled that habit into me. But some nights when I came home from work, the bathroom felt recently used. Not hot, just warm. I told myself I forgot, that I was tired. Then the kitchen started changing. I lived on rice, eggs, instant noodles. But inside the fridge, I found things I didn't remember buying. Half a tomato wrapped in paper, an open carton of milk already used. I blamed my memory again, until one morning I found a pot of soup on the stove, cold, with a thin layer of grease floating on top. I stood there for a long time, because I knew I hadn't cooked it. I poured it out, washed the pot, and told no one. Then there was the smell. Not garbage, not mold, but a human smell. Old clothes mixed with cheap soap. It came from the hallway near the small storage room under the stairs, the one my mother used for old boxers. The door was closed, but the smell leaked out. When I opened it, everything looked normal. Boxers, suitcases, dust. Still, I locked the door afterward. I didn't know why. I just did. After that, I started waking up at night. Not from loud noises, but from the feeling that someone was moving through the house. Bare feet, slow steps, careful. I stayed still. Didn't turn on the light. Didn't call out. Old house, I told myself. Wooed. Expands. You're imagining it. One night I came home early and the bathroom floor was wet. The mirror fogged. The towel hanging wrong. I checked every door. Locked. Windows intact. No signs of a break-in. The police came. Looked at Arun, found nothing. That night, I slept with the kitchen knife under my pillow. Around 4 in the morning, I heard it. A spoon tapping against a bowl. Soft, but deliberate. Then water running. Someone washing their hands. I didn't move. In the morning, there was a clean bowl in the sink, upside down, with a blue pattern. It wasn't mine. I stopped sleeping. I installed a small bell on my bedroom door and started writing everything down. 1 week later, while cleaning the storage room, I found one wooden panel loosened, not broken, but removed carefully. Behind it was a crawl space with a blanket, water bottles, food containers, and a notebook. Inside the notebook were short lines. Today, she came home late. She didn't eat the soup. She locked the storage room. Don't let her know. I felt breath behind me, very close. A man stood in the doorway, thin, sunken eyes, wearing my shirt. He didn't attack me or scream. He just said, "You came home earlier today." I don't remember how I ran. My neighbor called the police. They searched the house, but he was gone. The crawl space was empty. The notebook still there. The police said he had been living there for over a year, before my mother died, and after she was gone. That night I packed one bag, left the house, and never slept there again. I moved out before sunrise. I'm still haunted by one thought. Not that someone lived in my house, but that he left on his own. That night was a Tuesday in November 2021, a little after 10 p.m. I was alone in my third-floor apartment in a western suburb of Columbus, Ohio. Winter had come early. I had just turned off the living room lights and was getting ready for bed when I heard a faint sound coming from the parking lot behind the building. Not a crash, not an argument, just a noise that felt wrong, like metal brushing against metal. Very soft, very brief. I don't usually look outside, but that night, for reasons I still can't explain, I pulled the curtain back. Under the yellow parking lot lights, 2 cars were parked closer together than normal. A dark-colored SUV and a silver sedan. 2 men stood between them, one with his back to me, the other with his head lowered. I was about to close the curtain. I really was. Then the man with his head down looked up. and he looked straight at me. The distance was too far to make out his face clearly, but close enough for me to know he knew someone was watching. It wasn't panic. It wasn't anger. It was recognition, like he had just noted a detail. I dropped the curtain immediately. My heart was racing. I stood frozen in the dark, telling myself I was overreacting. I didn't hear screaming. There was no gunshot. Nothing concrete enough to justify calling the police. Just two men talking in a parking lot. I went to bed, but I didn't sleep well. Around 2 a.m., I heard a car engine start, then silence. The next morning, I read the local news. A man had been found dead inside a silver sedan, in a parking lot less than 2 blocks away. The preliminary cause of death was head trauma. There were no witnesses. I sat in front of the screen for a long time. My coffee went cold. I don't remember how many times I blinked. I didn't call the police. I wasn't sure what I had seen, and more importantly, I didn't want to be involved. 2 days later, someone knocked on my door. A man wearing a gray jacket with an electric company badge politely asked if I'd experienced any power issues in the area. I said no. He nodded, gave a small smile, then asked a question that sounded harmless enough. "Are you usually home in the evenings?" I gave a vague answer. He thanked me and left. That night, I received a text from an unknown number. No greeting, just one sentence. "Your living room window has a clear view of the parking lot." I didn't reply. The next day, I took time off work, stayed inside, kept the curtains closed all day. That afternoon, a thin envelope was slipped under my door. Inside was a black and white photo taken from behind the building. It showed my living room window. Lights off, curtains half drawn. On the back, written by hand, "Next time, don't stare for so long." I called the police. They came, took notes, asked many questions. They said there wasn't enough evidence to conclude I was being directly threatened. They asked if I was certain about what I saw that night. I said, not completely. A week later, the case was classified as a personal dispute. No suspects, no progress. But I began to notice something else. Some inks. When I came home, the living room curtains were already adjusted. Not open, not closed. Set at exactly the right angle to look outside, a way I never positioned them myself. I moved out 3 months later, but even now, whenever I'm alone at night, I think about the look of a man who glanced up and knew there was a witness. The most frightening part isn't that I saw something terrible. It said I did nothing at all. I've lived alone since the divorce. I rent a small house on the northern edge of Dayton, Ohio. An older, quiet neighborhood. The kind of place where, after 8 p.m., you barely see anyone outside except people walking their dogs. I chose it because it was cheap, closer to work, and because I thought fewer people meant fewer problems. I worked the day shift at an electronics parts warehouse. I get home around 6 in the evening, eat something simple, watch the news, then go to bed early. My life is so routine that if someone asked me what I did yesterday, I'd honestly have to stop and think. That afternoon was a Thursday, late March. It was still cold, the sun setting early. When I got home, I noticed a small package sitting by my front door. No one waiting. No delivery truck. Nearby, my name was correct. The address was correct. Everything printed neatly, completely normal. I stood there staring at it longer than I should have, because I hadn't ordered anything. I rarely shop online, and that month I was trying to cut back on expenses. Eventually, I brought it inside. I told myself maybe I forgot, or maybe someone had sent a gift by mistake. Inside, there was nothing unusual at first. A small cardboard box, carefully packed with paper. In the center was a cheap black USB drive. No label, no note. That was it. Holding it, I felt something I couldn't quite name. Not fear, just something wrong. No one accidentally sends a blank USB drive to a stranger, and if they did, they'd leave some kind of explanation. I didn't plug it in. I'd read enough stories to know that was a bad idea. I put it back in the box, pushed it to the corner of the table. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. The message was a single sentence. Did the package arrive? No greeting, no introduction, just a check-in. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. I blocked the number, even though I knew that probably meant nothing. That night, I didn't sleep well. Every time a car passed the house, I woke up. I started noticing things I never paid attention to before. Street lights, footsteps from neighbors, the sound of wind hitting the back door. The next morning, before leaving for work, I looked out the window and saw a gray sedan parked at the end of the street. Nothing unusual, but as I drove past it, I noticed the person inside was watching my house. It could have been a coincidence. I told myself that. At lunch, I called the delivery company listed on the shipping label. They confirmed the order was legitimate, paid for, sent from a distribution hub about 15 minutes from my house. The sender hadn't provided a name, only used a third-party payment service. When I asked about camera footage, the employee replied in a flat, scripted tone that the likelihood of retrieval was very low. That evening, the gray sedan was gone. I felt relieved, even though I didn't understand why I was so tense. 2 days later, another package arrived. This time, I was absolutely sure I hadn't ordered anything. I didn't bring it inside right away. I stood at the door, scanning the street. Empty. No one around inside were black and white photographs. Not landscapes. Not strangers. They were photos of my house, the front door, the back door, my bedroom window. Some taken during the day, some at night. One made me sit down on the floor, a photo of me from behind, bending over to open the trunk of my car. I don't remember how badly I was shaking, only the cold crawling across my scalp. My phone buzzed again. A different number. A short message. You move on schedule. Easy to track. I called the police. They came, looked at the photos, took notes. They asked if I had disputes, debts, anyone who knew my routine. I said no, or at least I thought so. They said they increased patrols, advised me to lock my doors. There wasn't enough evidence to open an investigation. That night, I didn't stay home. I went to a friend's place. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. A message from another number. You're not home. No question mark. No emotion. Just confirmation. The next morning, my friend came back with me. No signs of forced entry. But on the kitchen table, where I knew I'd left everything clean, there was a small piece of paper, written in pen, "Don't make this complicated." That was when I realized this wasn't a prank. And it wasn't just one person. Everything was too clean, too organized. The USB drive was still on the table. I decided to take it to the police station. Before leaving, I looked again at the shipping label from the first package. The tracking number ended with a date. Tomorrow. It took a few seconds for that to sink in. According to the delivery system, that package technically hadn't arrived yet. The police took the USB, said they'd forward it to their tech unit. I went home, tried to act normal, even though my hands wouldn't stop shaking. That evening, while I was in the shower, I heard my phone vibrating in the living room. I hadn't brought it with me. When I stepped out, the screen lit up with a new message. You took it. That's fine. At that exact moment, the doorbell rang. Not rushed, not frantic. 3 even presses. I didn't open the door. I stood still, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. A man's voice came through the door, calm and steady. We just need to talk. I called 911. I didn't hear footsteps leaving, only silence on the other side. The police arrived 12 minutes later. No one there, no unfamiliar vehicles, no signs of anyone having been present. 2 days later, the police called back. The USB contained nothing illegal, only empty text files, blank folders, nothing they could hold on to. The case was logged, but it went nowhere. I moved a week later. I didn't tell anyone except the rental company. I changed my phone number, deleted all my social media accounts. I thought I was safe. 3 months later, I received an email at my work address. No subject line, no signature, just one sentence. Next time, don't take it. I never found out who they were. I never found out what they wanted, but I understand one thing very clearly. Some things aren't delivered by mistake. They're sent to the right person at the right time to see how you'll react. And when you react the wrong way, you don't walk away. You become part of the plan.
Want to hear more stories like this? Hit follow. The night isn't over yet.